Joshua Clemens here. I want to take some time to talk to you about the Shroud of Turin. It's something special to my heart during this time of year, every year, when we think on Jesus in the tomb and how he's wrapped in his burial cloths. In the Gospel of John, whenever John and Peter get to the tomb, they notice that there's his burial cloth on one side and a face cloth on another. There's another cloth and it's all folded and it's all nice. Where did those cloths go? Well, don't know exactly, right? Except that there's good reason to think that maybe one of them came by way of Constantinople into the west and was placed in Turin. The other one is actually, it's called the Sudarium of Orvieto, which is, Sudarium is like a sweat cloth, right? A sweat mask. And so what's fascinating is that what we can do now to look at and analyze these items is something we couldn't have done before. The devotions of the faithful has kind of maintained that they are pious relics, but there was a question really if maybe say the Shroud of Turin was a forgery somehow. In fact, there was some carbon dating done in the 80s that seemed to imply that it was, except for the carbon dating was done on a piece that, unfortunately, they didn't know. It had been part of a reparation. It had been repaired. So it was actually, they weren't taking from the authentic cloth. They were taking part of the linen that came from the patch job that was done after there was a fire that almost destroyed the shroud. So if you look up the shroud, you can actually see the fire marks, But a couple of miraculous things I think come about. As time unfolds. One is that there were some photographers that took pictures of the shroud, and when they were developing it, they saw it in the negative. And in the negative image, if you Google Shroud of Turin, you'll probably see the negative images, and you can really see the image of Jesus really pop out before you just kind of see the image of this person who had been possibly crucified, Roman-style crucifixion, the marks in the hands, the feet. There's even a wound on the side. There's all the marks and cuts from what looks like a scourging, and even the blood on the head where maybe there was a crown of thorns, right? Well, perhaps it was just a forgery. Couldn't possibly have been, in the sense that no forger would have ever made a literally like a 3D negative. A lot of it which you wouldn't have even been able to see. In fact, there's so much detail in this negative that you can actually see that it was laying around a body. So it's not just a 2D thing, it's actually 3D. You can pull out the data from the depth and actually create and recreate a 3D image, which has been done. There's actually a statue that has been made out from that data. And so pretty cool. Pretty cool, really quite remarkable. Other things that have come up, they found pollen on it that even though it had been in Italy and elsewhere, the pollen that's there is from Judea, and it only grows there. And it would have been used. It's from flowers that would have been used in the common customary Jewish burial kind of ritual, if you will, the regular customary spices and things that you'd put in there. You'd put these flowers. Also really interesting is that there's a specific kind of plant that grows in Judea as well, in that area, that has serious thorns on it. It only grows there, and they found some of that pollen around the head and around the shoulders of this image. The image itself is super thin. It's actually it's not a pigment. It's just on the surface, about the thickness of probably like a cell wall or something. It's really super thin, unlike say paint, which just bleeds in. In fact, the oils and the blood that was on the cloth did seep in and go all the way through. So back to this Orvieto, this other cloth. It's really interesting because they weren't found together or anything. The Shroud of Turin came in the Middle Ages, probably from Constantinople. The one in Orvieto had been in the West, showing up historically, 4th century, 3rd century, 4th, 5th century, something like that, in Spain. So two different kind of things, except that they both had devotion. Well, you can do the studies on it and do mapping, just like you would do if you're studying as a detective a murder case, and say, what were these two claws on the same person based on the wounds. There were quite a few of them. They literally map totally. So without a doubt, from all that we would have scientifically, these two claws were on the same body. Now it gives new force to that finding of the two claws in the Gospel of John. That's just a few things about this cloth, but you should probably check it out. There are stories around it of it being saved and miraculously the kind of stuff that was like the big box that it was in during another fire that happened more recently than the Middle Ages. The man who foisted it on his shoulders and was carrying it out of the church. This Italian guy, he said that it got light. It was miraculously light, like a newborn child. All of like this big box and everything. It was really would have been hard. So that's one of numerous things that surround this shroud. Last little point that I think is kind of cool is, how does an image like that show up? They think that the leading theory, because it's definitely not a painting, is that some sort of UV explosion of light would have happened with for a millisecond with greater light energy than anything known to man at this point. And so pretty cool stuff. I say pretty cool. What I mean is really quite amazing. Oh, I forgot. This is another one. The coins. The eyes would tend to open up on dead bodies. Well, they put coins on it, and with the clarity that you can get with the imaging that you can have now, they're pretty sure that they can get down to the kind of coin that were placed on the eyes, and it would have been what's called a lepton, which would have been from about 27 AD to 35 AD, somewhere around that time, and would have been that of Pontius Pilate. A lot of history coming in and converging on this as being that of Jesus. Well, it's getting dark. I should probably let you go, and I hope that your Saturday is a good one, close to our Lord who died for us. God bless you.